Frozen ground, beating heart, the sky was dark above the ice world. Winds howled like angry ghosts. Snow slammed across the wreckage of a small human spacecraft, now half buried in white. Inside, a man struggled to stay warm. His name was Jack Holloway, a cargo pilot who had taken a risky shortcut through the Arkan Drift. A storm had forced his ship off course. He crash-landed on this frozen planet, unmapped, unmarked, unknown. The heat was failing. His AI assistant, Eve, warned him again. Temperature falling below survivable levels. Shelter required immediately. Jack pulled his heavy jacket tighter. His hands were numb and his beard was frozen stiff. He looked out through the cracked ship window. Nothing but snow and rock out there. He muttered, "Still." He stepped outside. Jack knew he had hours, maybe less, before the cold claimed him. The emergency beacon was active, but help might take days. He needed heat, food, and shelter. He walked with stiff legs through deep snow, scanning the horizon. Then, something strange caught his eye. Not a rock, not a piece of his ship. Something alive? He moved closer, squinting through falling snow. There, half buried in ice, was a figure, not human. Its skin was dark blue, ridged, and looked dry like old bark. Its limbs were thin, barely more than bones. Jack knelt beside it, brushing snow away. A long face with closed eyes. A strange metal collar around its neck. And then the eyes opened, milky white. A slow breath escaped its lips. It was alive. "Hey," Jack said. "Can you hear me?" The alien didn't speak. Just blinked. Its chest barely moved. The cold had nearly frozen it solid. Jack's AI buzzed through his earpiece. Warning, unknown biological entity detected. Probability of contamination, high. Recommendation, leave subject and return to crash site. Jack ignored her. He looked at the dying alien. No way I'm leaving someone like this. He took off his outer jacket and wrapped it around the creature. Its body was ice cold. Lifting it wasn't easy. The alien was light, but Jack was weak, and the cold made his limbs heavy. He struggled back to the crash site, step by painful step. Inside, he laid the alien on the floor near the heat vent, such as it was. He added power cells from his emergency kit to keep the heater running longer. "Stay with me," Jack said, watching the alien's chest rise and fall slowly. Hours passed. Jack sat with his back to the wall, arms crossed tight, shivering. He couldn't sleep. Every few minutes, he checked the alien. Then suddenly the alien's hand twitched. Jack moved closer. Its eyes opened again. It stared at him. "You stayed," the alien rasped. Its voice was rough, dry like wind over sand. "Of course I did," Jack replied. "You were half dead. No human would do that." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You met the wrong humans." The alien coughed, then winced. "What's your name?" Jack asked. Silence. Then finally, "Yervith." Jack nodded. "I'm Jack. Welcome back to life, Yervith." Yervith closed his eyes again, breathing shallow. Jack stood and paced the ship. The emergency food supply was low. Oxygen was okay for now. But he knew, with 2 people breathing, it'd last only half as long. He glanced at the alien again. Something on Yervith's chest was glowing faintly beneath the skin, like veins. "Lighting up." "Eve," Jack whispered. "You seeing this?" The eye scanned. Bioluminescence detected. Unknown energy pattern. Potential warning. This entity may be dangerous. Jack stared. But somehow, he didn't feel danger. He felt something else. Pity? No. Respect. This alien had been out there, alone in the snow, for who knows how long. And it hadn't given up. Neither would Jack. The heater flickered. The storm outside grew louder, shaking the walls. Jack sat beside Yervith again. "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. Then Yervith opened his eyes once more, this time more alert. "You should have left me." he whispered. Jack replied with a grin. Too late now. Yurvith looked at the human with something like surprise. Something close to hope. The storm howled on, but inside the broken ship, two beings from different worlds sat together. One broken, one stubborn, and together they would survive. Jack's hands shook as he tightened the last piece of thermal foil around the small heater. It wasn't built for this kind of freeze. Inside the crashed ship, the walls groaned, and snow leaked from cracks like the planet itself was trying to smother them. The alien Yurvith still lay silent, though his eyes opened more often now. He hadn't moved much, but his breathing was stronger. Jack watched the slow rise and fall of the creature's chest. How long were you out there? Jack asked, mostly to himself. Yurvith's voice came soft and scratchy. Too long to measure. Jack crouched beside him. You're lucky I found you. Yurvith's face turned slowly. No, you are the unlucky one. Before Jack could respond, a strange sound echoed through the wreckage. Crack. The ship's rear end gave a loud creak. Ice had built up outside, pressing against the bulkhead. Jack checked the pressure gauge. We won't last here long. He stood, thinking. Eve responded to his thoughts. There's a signal from below the ice shelf. Faint, possibly. A structure. A base? Jack blinked. Anything alive? No life signs, but it has power. Jack's heart jumped. Shelter. Grabbing a portable scanner, Jack wrapped himself tight and stepped out. The cold hit him like knives, but he pushed through. Following Eve's marker, not far, maybe 50 meters, snow dipped sharply. A frozen shaft, buried deep under the surface. The scanner beeped louder. There was definitely something down there. He rushed back to the ship. I found a way out, he told Yurvith. There's something under the ice, an old outpost, maybe. Yurvith blinked slowly. You must go alone. Jack shook his head. Not happening. He fashioned a sled from broken hull panels, tied ropes to his waist, then carefully lifted Yurvith onto it. You survived this long. You're not dying on my watch. Dragging the sled was hard. His boots slipped, his breath fogged heavy. But step by step, Jack pulled the alien across the snow toward the sunken shaft. The scanner located a thin panel of metal hidden under the snow. A faint symbol glowed on its surface. Jack touched it. Nothing. He placed Yurvith's hand on it. The symbol flared. A circle of snow hissed and vanished into steam as an old metallic hatch opened with a wheeze. Below, darkness and a faint orange glow. Jack didn't wait. He lowered the sled and climbed down into the warmth. The underground shelter was old, very old. Rusted alien machines lined the walls. Most were dead, but a few still hummed quietly. Jack pulled Yurvith inside and laid him near the heat vents, which pulsed with a soft orange glow. Warmth returned quickly. Yurvith stirred. No. This place. You do? The alien nodded slowly. This was a refuge, a hiding place. During the purge. Jack raised an eyebrow. Purge? But Yurvith didn't answer. He was fading again. Jack explored deeper. The shelter had supplies, food cubes, inedible, medpods, offline, and a strange curved seat that seemed to adjust its shape to whoever sat in it. He returned to Yurvith, placing a blanket over him. You're gonna make it, Jack whispered. Just then, a glowing panel lit up behind Yurvith. Strange alien writing scrolled across it. Eve translated instantly. Emergency stasis protocols active. Genetic signature recognized. Royal code detected. Jack blinked. Royal? Yurvith opened his eyes halfway. I was once. Suddenly, a long tone rang through the shelter. The lights flickered. Jack stood. What was that? He asked. Eve responded. Something was activated. Possibly a distress signal, or an alert. Jack swore under his breath. We're not alone anymore, are we? Yurvith gripped his arm weakly. You should leave. But Jack shook his head. I didn't save your life just to walk away now. The alien stared at the human's face. You don't know what's coming. Jack smiled coldly. Then tell me. But Yervith said nothing, only the sound of distant machinery waking. Up echoed deeper within the shelter, and somewhere, beyond the snow, someone else might have heard the signal. The strange humming grew louder. Jack stood still, holding his breath, as the floor beneath his boots trembled gently. It wasn't just old machinery starting up, something deeper. Something alive was waking inside the shelter. He turned to Yervith, who lay weakly by the heat vent. The alien's glowing veins had dimmed a little, but his eyes were wide open now. You activated something, Jack said. Yervith's voice was tight. Not me. The system recognized me. My code. What does it mean? It means, Yervith said slowly, they'll come. Jack didn't like the sound of that. Who? Yervith's head tilted back against the wall. The wardens, old machines, made to erase all traitors. If they detect me alive, they will hunt. Even here, Yervith nodded once. Especially here. Jack's stomach twisted. Eve's voice buzzed into his ear. Warning. Multiple unknown signals approaching. Estimated arrival, 10 minutes. Metal-based signatures. High threat level. Jack paced the narrow space. No weapons. No way out. He muttered. He moved fast, searching the lower rooms. Broken screens, dust-covered consoles. Strange alien tools he didn't understand. Then under a panel he found it. A handheld device. Heavy, smooth, glowing with dull blue lines. Eve? Unknown weapon. Possibly plasma-based. Status. Semi-functional. Jack pressed the side button. A glowing blade hummed to life short. But burning hot. Better than nothing. He returned to Yervith. We have incoming. I'll hold them off. Yervith looked at him strangely. Why? Jack gave a weak smile. Because I don't like leaving people behind. A pause. Yervith's expression changed. His voice softened. You are not like the others. No. Jack said, I'm just human. A loud clang rang from the shaft above. Then another. Something was climbing down. Jack raised the blade and moved toward the narrow corridor. The light flickered. Then it arrived. Tall, thin, metal skin. A long face like a skull. One glowing red eye in the center. Its arms ended in bladed tools. The warden, Jack, swallowed hard. The machine saw him. Unauthorized life form detected. Biological. Interference. Removal required. It stepped forward, moving too fast. Jack swung the plasma blade. It sparked against the machine's arm, but didn't cut deep. The warden struck back. Jack ducked, barely dodging a blade that ripped through the metal wall behind him. He rolled, then stabbed again, this time hitting the neck joint. Sparks flew. The warden twitched but kept coming. Jack, behind you! Eve shouted. Another warden dropped into the chamber. Jack cursed, retreating. The first warden's movements were slower, now damaged, but the second was fresh. He ran. Back into the heat. Room. Yervith tried to rise, failed, then gritted his teeth. Jack threw a piece of broken pipe at the approaching warden. It ignored him. Just then, Yervith raised a hand, and the glowing veins in his body flared bright orange. The warden paused. Recognized him. Target. Class 9. Traitor. Initiate erasure. Yervith forced himself upright. And then, to Jack's shock, he shouted a word. A command. In a voice deeper than before. The warden froze mid-step. Shut down, command? Jack whispered. Yervith's voice wavered. I was once high-ranking. My codes still hold value, but not for long. The second warden twitched. Then leaped. Jack acted fast, lunged with the plasma blade, and shoved it straight into its core. Boom! A blast of sparks threw him backward. The warden fell, shaking violently. Before going still, smoke filled the air. Jack coughed and limped toward Yervith. You okay? Yervith collapsed again. His skin dimmed. Too much energy used. Jack dragged him closer to the vent again, brushing snow dust from his shoulders. You should have told me sooner you had authority codes. Yerveth breathed weakly. I didn't think anyone would believe an old frozen alien. Jack chuckled. Well, I've believed crazier things. Like surviving this day. Eve's voice returned. Warning, more warden signals detected. 4 units approaching from East Ridge. Time, 8 minutes. Jack looked around the shelter. They wouldn't survive another attack like this. Then he saw it. A closed metal door at the back, covered in dust. Eve? Unknown room, shielded, no signal inside. Jack forced it open. Behind it, a chamber glowing with golden light. In the center, an old alien pod, shaped like an egg. Symbols lit its walls. Yerveth looked up. That's a memory core. Jack blinked. Can we hide in it? No, but inside. You'll see who I really am. Jack hesitated. Then nodded. Together, they stepped in. As the door closed, the outside world grew silent. And the truth was about to be revealed. Asterisk inside the glowing chamber, silence wrapped around Jack and Yerveth like a blanket. The golden light pulsed slowly, and the walls felt warm, almost alive. Yerveth leaned against the curved surface of the pod, his breath shaky. Jack looked around, unsure what to expect. Then, the floor lit up beneath their feet. Lines of energy formed symbols. The walls changed. Glowing patterns shifted into moving images. A soft hum vibrated in the air. What is this place really? Jack asked. Yerveth looked at him, eyes calm but distant. A memory chamber. It holds my truth. The part one tried to bury. The room flickered. Suddenly, Jack saw it. Not just a recording, he was standing inside the memory. A tall alien structure rose from the ground under a red sky. Young Yerveth stood proudly in silver armor, surrounded by others. Their heads were high. Their movements sharp. They called us guardians of the chain, Yerveth's voice echoed. We protected the royal bloodline. Served without question. Jack watched as soldiers marched in silence. Then the scene changed. Screams, explosions, buildings falling. Yerveth stood before a trembling alien child, shielding her from laser fire. The royal command came. Burn everything. No survivors. But you didn't follow it, Jack said softly. Yerveth nodded. I refused. I hid her. I disobeyed. More images flashed. Yerveth standing before a tribunal. His armor stripped away. Chains placed on. His arms then dash cold ice. The same snow-covered land where Jack had found him. That child survived? Jack asked. I don't know, Yerveth whispered. But I paid the price for my choice. The memory faded. The room grew dim again. Jack stood silently. His hands curled into fists. You were punished for doing the right thing. Yerveth gave a slow smile. That is often how it works. Just then, a loud metal boom echoed outside. Jack snapped alert. Eve's voice buzzed in his ear. Hostile. Units approaching shelter. Visual confirmation. 4 wardens. Eta. 3 minutes. Jack rushed to the door of the pod and opened it. The cold blasted in. He turned to Yerveth. We have to move. They'll tear through this place. Yerveth tried to rise but stumbled. I can't. Jack didn't wait. He grabbed a metal bar, snapped it free, and helped the alien lean on it. Then he slung Yerveth's arm over his shoulder. I'm not letting you die after all this. They limped out of the pod and into the corridor. The walls of the shelter vibrated with heavy footfalls. Wardens were inside now. Jack scanned for options. Eve, there's a tunnel exit to the west. Old mining shaft, half collapsed. Risk of falling, 65%. I'll take it. They rushed down the hall. Behind them, the shriek of metal on metal filled the air. A warden spotted them. It shrieked, traitor detected. Jack turned and threw a broken pipe at it. It hit the warden's eye and bounced off harmlessly. Right. That was dumb. Jack muttered. The warden charged. Jack pulled Yervith behind a wall, then jammed a loose cable into a power junction. Sparks flew. The warden stepped on it. Boom. Electric fire burst upward, stalling the machine. Jack didn't wait. They kept moving. Finally, they reached the mining shaft. The tunnel sloped downward, frozen and cracked. "I hope this doesn't kill us," Jack said. "No promises," Yervith replied weakly. They slid down into the darkness. Above them, Warden screamed. The tunnel was tight, damp, and shaking. Snow began falling through broken gaps in the ceiling. Jack pulled Yervith forward, step by painful step. "Eve?" he gasped. "Where does this lead?" "Possible surface exit, but only one way to find out." As they turned a corner, light shone ahead. A steel gate. Rusted but intact. Jack forced it open. They stumbled into a wide cave open at the top. Snow fell from the broken ceiling, but sunlight poured in too. Fresh air. In silence. For now, Jack helped Yervith sit down near a rock. The alien looked at him. "You could have left me." "I didn't. You almost died for me." "I still might," Jack said with a grin. Yervith placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "Then let me give you something in return." He reached into the torn cloth around his waist and pulled out a small glowing cube. Jack stared. "What's that?" "My memory key. It holds knowledge maps, history. Secrets your kind doesn't have." Jack blinked. "Why me?" "Because you chose life. Not orders, not fear, just life." Jack took the cube. Outside, snow still fell. The wardens would search. But now they had a chance. And sometimes, a single choice was stronger than any weapon. The glowing cube felt warm in Jack's hand, even in the icy wind. It pulsed with soft blue light, like it was alive, like it was watching him. "What's in it?" he asked. Yervith sat against a rock, his breath still shallow but steadier than before. "Everything they erased from the galaxy." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You mean history?" "More than that," Yervith said. "Names, locations, weapons, truths buried by fire." Jack turned the cube over in his hand. "I can't read this," he muttered. "You don't need to," Yervith said. "The cube chooses who may see." Before Jack could ask what that meant, the cube clicked softly. A thin beam of light stretched from its center and struck the icy cave wall. Symbols appeared. Floating in the air, they twisted, turned, and then a hologram, huge, glowing, alive. Galaxy map lit up in front of them. Dozens of star systems blinked on and off, red marks, yellow lines. Circles and shapes Jack couldn't understand. "What is this?" he asked, stepping forward. Yervith pointed weakly. "These are memory gates. Ancient cores placed across the stars by the old guardians. Each one hides a secret. This cube is the first key." Jack turned to him. "So that's why they wanted you dead?" "Yes," Yervith replied. "Not for what I did, but for what I know." The map zoomed in on a specific planet. It was blinking gold. "Is that where we are?" Jack asked. "No," Yervith said. "That is where the next memory gate lies. A planet called Drelos 4, forbidden for centuries." Jack stared at the projection. The cube had just handed him a path, a journey, a choice, but he wasn't ready yet. They were still stuck in this ice hole. Suddenly, Eve's voice whispered in his ear. "Jack, I'm detecting a power source right beneath us." Jack looked down. "Ice floor. Nothing here." "Incorrect," Eve replied. "There's a thin crust. Something's pulsing under the surface. Same energy signature as the cube." Jack knelt and tapped the ground. It echoed hollow. Yervith looked alarmed. "That can't be. The second core was never supposed to be here." "You mean there's another one under us?" Yervith's voice grew tense. "Yes, and if the wardens know, they will stop at nothing." Jack stood fast. Then we better get it first. He pulled out a plasma cutter from his survival belt and began melting the icy crust. Steam hissed upward. The ground shook slightly. Then Dash cracked. The floor gave way. Jack and Yervith slid down a sloping tunnel of ancient ice, tumbling and landing in a massive underground chamber. It was dark, silent. Until the cube in Jack's hand glowed again. The room came alive. Lights burst across the walls. Alien machines blinked on. And in the center stood a tall spire made of crystal and metal. Second memory core. Jack stepped forward, heart pounding. "What do I do?" he asked. Yervith, still lying beside him, whispered, "Place the cube at its base. If it accepts you, it will open." Jack walked to the spire. His fingers trembled as he set the cube onto a small round slot. For a moment, nothing. Then Dash flashed. The room exploded with golden light. Symbols flew through the air, circling Jack like fireflies. He gasped. He wasn't just seeing. He was feeling. Memories. Ancient wars, lost cities, voices crying in languages he didn't know. A council of alien races arguing about balance and power. He saw a younger Yervith standing tall beside them. The Guardians weren't just soldiers, they were peacekeepers, and they had been betrayed. By their own. The memory showed fire falling from space, giant ships wiping out planets. Yervith screaming, in defiance, refusing to burn the last library. And then a new figure appeared. Tall, robed, face hidden, but human. Jack's eyes widened. Wait, that was a human? The memory faded. The room dimmed. The cube clicked. And the spire slid back into the ground. Jack collapsed to his knees, gasping. Yervith crawled to him. "You saw it," he whispered. Jack nodded. "Why was a human there, in your past?" Yervith's face was grim. "Because this war was never just alien versus alien. Your kind has touched the stars long before your people remember." Jack's mind spun. He looked at the cube again. "It showed me things I don't understand." "You will," Yervith said. "In time." Suddenly above them, metal slammed. The cave entrance. A warden had found them. Yervith stood weakly. No more running. Jack stood beside him, gripping the old plasma blade. "No," he agreed. "Let's make our stand." The warden dropped into the chamber with a shriek, and the fire within both man and alien burned bright. The warden stood tall, blades gleaming in the dim light of the memory chamber. Its red eye focused on Jack and Yervith, blinking rapidly like a predator that had found its prey. "Target confirmed," the warden said, its voice cold and echoing. "Erase traitor. Terminate interference." Jack stepped forward, holding the plasma blade tight. "Come on then." He charged. The blade sparked as it struck the warden's arm. Metal sizzled but didn't break. The machine spun and lashed out. Jack jumped back just in time, but the shockwave knocked him to the floor. Yervith shouted something in his language and raised his hand. But this time the shutdown code didn't work. "This one's newer," Yervith said through gritted teeth. "Too new for my commands." Jack rolled, barely avoiding the next strike. "Then we do it the old way." He reached into his belt and grabbed a flare grenade. He flicked it on, then hurled it at the warden's face. Boom! A blinding flash filled the room. The warden staggered back, sensors blinded for a few seconds. Jack grabbed Yervith and pulled him toward the far wall. "There's no exit here," Yervith warned. "There will be." Jack slammed his shoulder into the panel. Ice cracked. Metal bent. Behind it, an old maintenance shaft. Jack kicked it open and shoved Yervith through, then crawled after him. They slid through the narrow tunnel, chased by metal screeches echoing behind them. Finally, they burst into the light. They were back, outside near the ridge. The sky above was gray, but a signal blinked in the clouds. A rescue ship. Hovering. Descending. Jack's single quotes S beacon had finally worked. A Voice called from above. Survivor detected. Sending drop rope. A metal cable landed near Jack's feet. He looked up and laughed. We're saved. The voice crackled again. Be advised, local threat level is critical. One evac only. Immediate lift recommended. Jack froze. One evac? He turned to Yervith, who lay slumped on the snow, breathing hard. The alien couldn't stand on his own. Jack's hands clenched. He walked to the rope. Eve, confirm? They won't take both? Affirmative. Protocol prevents transport of unknown alien lifeforms without clearance. You must choose. Jack stared at the cable, at safety, at the sky. Then he turned to your single quotes Vath. The alien met his gaze with tired, knowing eyes. You should. Go, Yervith said quietly. You've done more than I ever expected. No, Jack whispered. That's not enough. You have a future, Yervith said. I do not. Jack stood still. Everything in him screamed to survive, to escape, to live. But another voice, deep inside, reminded him of the freezing night when he first saw Yervith lying in the snow. Alone, abandoned, like trash. Jack took a breath, then grabbed the rope and tied it around your single quotes Vath. The aliens' eyes widened. What are you doing? I'm sending someone up, Jack said with a small smile. Just not me. No. Yervith protested. They'll leave you behind. I know. Jack stepped back. Eve, transmit emergency lift. The cable snapped upward. Yervith rose into the sky, shouting Jack's name, struggling against the harness. But Jack didn't look away. He watched until the ship's hatch closed around his alien friend. Then the sky turned quiet. Snow began to fall again. Jack limped across the ridge, his energy nearly gone. He didn't have a plan. The warden would find him soon. Still, he smiled to himself. You're not alone anymore, he whispered, repeating the words he once said in the wrecked ship. Suddenly, a soft beep echoed from Eve. Unknown transmission received. Jack frowned. From where? Encrypted signal. Coming from orbit. Then a new voice filled the air. Deep, calm, female. This is Serapha's Dawn, flagship of the Diplomatic Recon Alliance. We received a data burst from one Yervith of the Outer Rings. He included your name. Jack blinked. What? Your active refusal has reached ears beyond this world, the voice continued. We are not leaving you behind. Above the clouds another ship descended. Larger, not military, alien, and human. Together. Jack laughed, then fell to his knees. As the lights broke through the snowstorm, he whispered, took you long enough. The darkness around him faded, but the bond he'd made with one old alien in the cold would echo across the stars. When Jack opened his eyes, the sky above was soft blue. The storm was gone. Warm air brushed across his skin. Not warm like Earth, but far from the biting cold he remembered. A soft hum vibrated under his back. He was no longer lying on ice. He turned his head slowly. The walls were smooth, metallic, and curved like a pod. White lights above blinked gently. Strange symbols glowed in blue lines across the walls. He was inside a ship. Alive. Before he could sit up, a familiar voice spoke. You stubborn fool. Jack smiled weakly. Yervith. The old alien stepped into view. He looked different now, still worn, still old, but standing straight. His skin, once pale and dim, now glowed softly along the veins. You gave up your escape for me, Yervith said. Jack coughed and tried to sit. I figured I'd buy you a few more days. Didn't think I'd get rescued by your fancy space friends. Yervith looked serious. It wasn't luck. I made sure they heard what you did. Jack raised a brow. So you can send messages. Yervith ignored the tease. The ship that found you is part of the a Diplomatic Recon Alliance. They protect knowledge, hidden truths, just like the old Guardians once did. Jack looked around the sleek interior. This doesn't feel like a prison. It isn't. It's the beginning of something new. Later, Jack stood on the ship's observation deck. A massive window showed the stars stretching across space like glittering rivers. Vath stood beside him. "I thought your people were all gone," Jack said softly. "They are," Yervath replied. "But those who remember us still honor the stories, like the memory cubes." Yervath nodded. "The cube you activated wasn't meant for just anyone. It responded to you." Jack turned. "Why?" "Because only someone with no blood on their hands, no hunger for power, can awaken the truth." Jack gave a dry laugh. "I'm just a delivery pilot." Yervath looked at him carefully. "That's exactly why you were worthy." The Draw ship made its next jump toward Drelos 4, the planet marked in the cube's map. Jack was invited to join the crew, not as a soldier, but as a witness of revival. A voice for the forgotten. Yervath, now a living archive, would travel with him. Together, they would search for lost cores, buried gates, and hidden history. But before that, Jack had one request. "I want to go back to the ice planet," he said. The DR captain frowned. "Why?" "To bury something." A week later, Jack stood alone in the snow. The shelter was now just a hole in the ground. He walked to the spot where he'd first found Yervath, still marked by scattered metal parts. From his coat, Jack pulled out a small human flag, a simple patch from his uniform. He stuck it into the snow dot, then beside it, he placed a tiny sculpture shaped like two figures. One human, one alien, both sitting back to back. "It started here," Jack whispered. "But it won't end here." The wind blew softly around him, almost like the planet was listening. He turned and walked away. This time, he didn't look back. Back aboard the ship, Yervath waited. "I thought you'd stay longer." "I said goodbye," Jack replied. "Now, it's time to move forward." Yervath handed him something wrapped in cloth. Jack opened it. "The memory cube." "But I thought it belonged to the Guardians," Jack said. Yervath nodded. "It still does, but it chooses its carrier." Jack held the cube tight. This time, it pulsed warmly in his hand like it understood. Yervath smiled. "You didn't just save an old alien in the snow. You saved what he stood for." Jack looked out the window. The stars were ahead. New worlds, new truths, new hope. And as the ship entered warp, leaving behind the cold world that tried to kill them both, Jack knew one thing for certain. He hadn't just refused to leave someone behind, had made sure no one ever would be forgotten again.